Hello everyone and welcome to the latest edition of This Racing Life. Later in the show we'll be catching up with connections of the Tin Man, one of the most popular sprinters of the modern era. And while he's retired, it's time for a new start, and could that be Chipotle, the Windsor Castle winner, who has some big targets ahead? I've come to Johnson-Houghton to find out more.
This time last year, nobody knew how COVID was going to affect any sales or owners coming into the yard, what was going to happen. And so I thought I needed to be a bit proactive. And I'd had a few murmurings from some of my owners, though, because they couldn't go racing. They weren't necessarily going to come back in this year. So I decided to set up a syndicate with 3 cheaply bought yearlings, and it's for 2-year-old year only, and 5% share, one-off fee. And that's what the Woodway 20 is. I mean, mine aren't normally working by the time Brocklesby comes along, let alone running. But he just kept doing so well. I mean, he's never been drilled in his life. He's never had a hard bit of work. But he just kept showing up. It just kept showing up every time. We do lots of bunch canters on the grass with our 2-year-olds, early doors. And he just kept coming to the fore all the time. So I just gave him a couple of little bits of work and went, oh, well, it's a 2-year-old syndicate. Why not run the first 2-year-old race of the year?
He was always very mature mentally and physically, I suppose. He was quite a sort of strong little horse, and everything we did of him he sort of took on board, and he was very professional. So I suppose we didn't push any buttons with him. He kind of told us he was ready, and that was why he ran the Brocklesby. And since then, he's just, from every run, he's just stepped forward and forward, and I'd like to say he'd probably improve again.
And the next logical step for a lot of people for 2-year-olds was the national stakes. He got somewhat stuck in the mud.
Yeah, I regretted running him. Charlie and I went and walked the course, and we went, oh, it's very soft. Oh, look, just where we're going to be, it's very soft. So I said, well, and then I went, oh, we don't know, he doesn't like soft ground. And we had a big discussion about it. Whatever you do, if you're going to ride him, if we're going to run him, this is the place you do not want to be. And that was the place he was in. And literally the last half, sort of coming up to 4 furlongs, he was all over the winner for me. He was travelling into it really well. But as soon as he came off the bridle and it was very heavy ground the last furlong, he just got a bit lost, and Charlie left him alone and looked after him.
Quicker conditions, thankfully, for the Windsor Castle at Ascot. What was going through your head when, firstly, where you saw he was drawn on the perceived wrong side of the track, although there had been a winner prior, but also after he didn't have the cleanest of brakes? So
first of all, when the decks came out, I thought, provisional deck. I went, oh yeah, we've got a little each way squeak. And then I went, drawn 1, we have got no chance. No chance. Can't win drawn 1. It's not possible. And I just kept telling everyone, just can't win. We've been drawn out of it. And then when the Hunt Cup, they won that side, I went, oh, that'll make the jockeys braver to actually go that side and stay that side. So that gives us a squeak of being placed. And then when he fell out the stalls, I went, oh, Chippy, really? But after half a furlong, I was happy, very happy with him, because he was just travelling so well, so easily.
For an inexperienced 2-year-old as such, it was only his 4th run, he was very professional. The gaps weren't the biggest, but as they came, he was quick enough and good enough to take them. And no, he almost got there too soon and had a look around when he got there. So no, he's a very, very talented little horse, yeah.
So what next for him? You'd muted the Super Sprint as his main target before the Windsor Castle was even mentioned in any interview. Is that still the plan? Well,
it makes sense. He's only got a £3 penalty, and it's near on 100 grand to the winner. Well, that's nearly 3 times what the Windsor Castle was worth. So for a horse that costs 10 grand, it's worth a pop at. It's the next obvious choice. Then we'll look at the Molecombe, and then possibly the Nunthorpe.
Are we dealing, in your eyes, of a 2-year-old and possibly a 2-year-old only?
I don't know, but he's in a 2-year-old only syndicate, so I might as well run him. I'm not saying he can't make a 3-year-old, but we've bought him to be a 2-year-old, so why not enjoy his 2-year-old career?
And given his breeding as well, is up in trip out of the question?
Absolutely not, but whilst he's flying at 5, we'll leave him at 5. We might look at the middle part later on. It could all come crashing down. But the way he works and the way he goes, I don't think it will. But we're just enjoying it whilst it's going on.
He's taken everything very well, and he doesn't do a lot of training at home. He just does a lot of routine canters and stuff, and that seems to tick him over. So, yeah, no, hopefully we can get a few more runs into him, and a couple more wins would be nice.
And when it comes to Accidental Agent, he's given you the biggest day of your career in the Queen Anne in 2018. Things haven't really gone to plan since, but is it still nice to kind of greet him as an old friend? You still get to see him, and he didn't run badly in the Queen Anne at a massive price.
Yeah, he's never ran badly in the Queen Anne when he's taken part. Listen, he's an old favourite, of course. I'll never forget the day he won the Queen Anne. And listen, he's ran consistently since. He's just found things very hard, and he's very highly rated. So now we're going back handicapping with him, so he's having to give progressive horses weight. But yeah, I mean, I certainly wouldn't write him off. He's in great form. He looks fantastic. So it'd be lovely to get his head back in front again.
That name was the book that my father wrote just before he died, called Accidental Agent, and it was about his wartime experiences. I then decided somebody else wanted to use the name, and I thought, no, I stopped, and I wouldn't let them use my father's name. So, and I didn't want to use it much, so I used the name of the book instead.
And something you've always said about your horses is that you breed them and then they're off to the sales, and there can't be that kind of emotional attachment to them. And that was going to be the plan for Accidental Agent.
Oh, he went to the sales.
But it didn't go to plan, did it?
No, it didn't go to plan. It was a very bad sale that year. I did manage to sell one, luckily. Gave one away, and he was the one that came home. Fortunately, he was much the best. It's funny how things work out sometimes.
If he ran a stone above what he's capable of that day, what a day to do it. Who cares? People think they're putting him down by telling me that, oh, well, he ran a stone above what he normally does. I don't care. What a day to do it, to win the Queen Anne. And he's still got it. This year, I finally got him back to where he was then. Maybe, mentally and physically, he's in really good form. He's so happy with himself. I thought he ran really well in the Queen Anne this year. They didn't go quite fast enough for him. I think if they'd gone a little bit faster, he might have been fourth.
It wasn't just your biggest day at Accidental Agent winning the Queen Anne. Charlie Bishop as well, who's been with you for a few seasons now. Just talk to me about his role within the business.
So when Charlie started riding out, I think he had to ride out for me for a year, came twice a week, and I said, I'm not going to give you any rides, don't think you ride well enough. And he was very determined. He kept coming and kept coming. So then he's ridden out a few more, and he's ridden out a few more, and ridden a few more. And he's not the stable jockey per se, and no owner has to use him if they prefer another jockey, because that's their right, they pay the bills. But he comes and rides work twice a week, so he gets a feel of all the horses, and he's a team player, and I like a team player.
What exactly does he bring to it that maybe another jockey wouldn't? It can't just be the loyalty aspect.
Well, it's the loyalty, and he knows the horses. It's nice to have someone that's not just getting on for a day, and it doesn't, oh, well, I'll ride a bad race, it doesn't matter. I'll move on to the next one. And he will come back to me and say, oh, I didn't give that a good ride. And hold his hands up to it, because, we all don't give things good rides or good train. I put them in the wrong race sometimes, or I'll do something wrong. Everyone is human, and he has the confidence to know that if he actually does give something bad ride, hold his hand up. I'm not going to go, well, that's it, you're sacked. And that means he's always going to be trying his best for me, which is great.
She's very loyal, and I think she gets that treatment back off her owners, because I mean, they can see the way she treats people. I've been here, like you say, 4 years, and there's a lot of the staff that were here when I came are still here, and she's obviously got a few more because we've got a few more horses. But no, it's a happy yard, and she treats everyone nicely, and yeah, I can't thank her enough for her loyalty to me anyway. My main ambition is to ride as many good horses as I can. I would like to ride more good horses and ride more big winners. Obviously, winners day to day are very important as well, but what the winners that really mean something are the Saturday winners, whether it be at, I don't know, Windsor last weekend or Royal Ascot or wherever. It's the kind of the weekend winners are the ones that really keep you going.
And in a similar vein, Georgia Dobie, who claims 5 for you, she's been with you a few seasons, and she fits in well with the machine as well.
Yeah, she does. She's struggled a bit this year. It's been harder because everything she won on last year has all gone up in the handicap. So it's harder for them to win. It's not because she's doing anything wrong. It's harder for the horses that she was claiming off and winning races with last year. They're higher in the handicap. It's harder for them to win. But she'll get going again.
Eve's a good boss. She's given me plenty of rides, plenty of opportunities. She's really got me going, to be honest. She's put, even in my first season, she put me up on quite a few in these sort of apprentice races and stuff, and she got me going, yeah. You
mentioned you've been to Australia, you spent some time down there. What was the Georgia Dobie like going out there, and what was the Georgia Dobie like coming back?
Not very good. No, I was 18 and I sort of wanted to spread my wings a little bit and learn a lot. It's a lot different over there. It's a lot sort of time work, with the clock and stuff. But no, yeah, it brought my riding on a lot, you know, I strengthened up a lot, and you ride sort of 12 to 15 lots a day, so that was really good, yeah, great experience.
Isn't it an experience that you'd advise any young jockey who's trying to apply their trade, go to different jurisdictions, learn how they do it?
Yeah, definitely. You know, any sort of younger person that sort of speaks to me, I always say, maybe even before getting your licence out, you know, to go abroad and experience it, because it is really good.
Could you have ever seen yourself doing anything else? You had the pedigree, to use a
Oh yes, I ran
tried-and-tested
away
term.
for a while. I didn't really want to work in racing at all. I went to Australia for a couple of years, did anything but racing. I worked in London for a couple of years, fanning around, not doing much, but it was great fun. But then I discovered that actually I didn't like living in a city, and I did quite like riding out and that sort of thing. So then I went back to Lambourne for 7 years.
And here we've seen the facilities that you have, enviable to pretty much any trainer. What do they allow you to do that you wouldn't be able to do it in a busy training centre like a Newmarket or a Lambourne?
Well, I think the joy of here is, I mean, all the stables are on a hill, so that presents its own troubles, that you can't necessarily put a flat something in there or a flat whatever in there. Being up on the downs and having lots of tracks and lanes to go down, horses can be treated as individuals if they're difficult. And we can send them out in twos if necessary, as well as in a string. I try and get everything in a string because I think horses are pack animals, but if they need to go out with one other horse, they can. If they need to just go and have a little hack about and sweeten them up, they can.
And just finally, Eve, how much satisfaction do you get that the family's involved? Your mother breeding horses, you gave her biggest day as a breeder, her biggest day as an owner as well. How much satisfaction that she still has zest for the game and something you can enjoy together?
Yeah, it's really good. I love it. Drives me insane sometimes because, again, sometimes I go, should we stop the clock ticking on this one, Mum? Oh, no, just another race. And her training fees probably aren't that expensive, so it's not necessarily economically viable for me. But it gives them pleasure. And, you know, throughout lockdown, she and my dad came up the gallops every day. It gave them something to do. And they're in their 80s, and I know a lot of their friends struggled because they couldn't see anyone or get out and do anything. And I'm very grateful, you naughty dog. Sorry. I'm very grateful that actually they had that. They had something to look forward to. They had the racing to watch. It gave them, I think, something to do.
So that's it from Eve Johnson-Houghton's base here in Woodway. Thank you to everyone from the team for making us feel so welcome. Over the show goes to Newmarket, where Jess Stafford picks up the story about the legendary sprinter, the Tin Man.
James, take me back to the very beginning with the Tin Man. Can you remember your first impressions of him as a yearling?
I think you always look at him in a slightly sort of rose-tinted glasses because he was a brother to Deacon Blues, and we trained a lot of the family, including his mother and sort of brothers, and you know, trained lots of relations. So I think when you get a good individual from a family, you know, you always sort of slightly give them every chance. And he was, you know, strong. He's actually had more scope than Deacon Blues, so and he was in book one. So we were obviously trying to find ways of getting him. You know, first of all, it was a family we knew well. So, you know, I think once you've got something you can sell, you know, I think sort of pedigrees, you know, we've had lots of relations, that sort of thing. They're easy to market. And so once we got him, you know, it all sort of tied in because it was a Fred Archer syndicate. The Tin Man was the Fred Archer's nickname because it was, you know, he was named that because he didn't like spending money. And, you know, so it all tied in.
James and I went into the ring to see him going through, and he said, shall I bid? So I said, yeah, go on. And anyway, it got up to 70,000. My heart's like thumping.
Yeah.
And he said, what shall I do? I said, go another. And he said, have you got plenty of people to come into? Yeah. Got plenty of people. So anyway, 80,000, bang. And then I'm thinking, oh my God, we've now got to sell him. And James turned around and he said, how many people have you got that will buy a share?
Yeah.
I said, well, I haven't actually got anyone yet.
He was the very first Fred Archer syndicate horse. And way back in 2015, when Jacko kicked this off, we were very interested in joining the syndicate because we followed his relations. James trained quite a few of his relations, and his dam, Pesario. So it sounded like a fun way of keeping in touch and close to him. So we got involved that way.
Yeah, and when you had the opportunity of being part of a syndicate, is this something that you had got involved with before?
No, we
Syndicate
hadn't.
experience?
In fact, the syndicate members are quite a varied breed. We've got people who have never had horses before. We've got seasoned owners, quite a bunch of characters, and everybody's family and friends, and we've all stuck together through this syndicate for 5 or 6 years. It's been, well, an amazing journey.
We had told them all that we thought he was a really nice horse. And, you know, going back to his 2-year-old days, you know, when he ran his first race, it was at Doncaster on a really miserable May evening. And we'd got quite a few of the gang who had turned up. And, you know, we were so excited. And then this horse came in and he was hollowing and he was behaving really badly. And I'm thinking, this isn't the same horse that we have at home.
The gloss is slightly worn off by then. The fact you get to May as a 3-year-old and he hasn't run, and he goes to Doncaster, and Jim Crowley rode him, and he was quite. He was thinking about other things. You know, he wasn't concentrating at all. You know, he fancied one of the fillies in the race and was more worried about her than actually getting on and racing. And he ran okay, finished 5th. And Jim came on. He came back in, and he was laughing. And he said, "I've never had a horse run so well that was running on 5 legs and shouting all the rest of the field." You know, he was just not concentrating at all. So I was, you know, although you were slightly gritted teeth, saying, "Oh, he's run fine," but I was really quite. You know, we had to do something about it, and he would put it by the owners, and we gelded him the following week.
He went on to win his next 2 races, and he got a handicap mark of 75, and then progressed up to his highest was 117. So, and everything that went on in those 3 or 4 years was just tremendous.
And then he ran at York, and he ran flat, and so the forfeit stage for the Champion Sprint was on the Tuesday after he'd run disappointing at York. So I thought, well, there's no point going for the Champion Sprint now after he's been disappointing at York in a handicap. You know, what's the point? Yeah. He was a bit flat after the race. Anyway, he came back to himself. We ran him at the October Ascot, the October meeting at the beginning of October, and he absolutely hacked up in a handicap. So I rang the syndicate members. I said, right, well, I'm really sorry. Having taken him out of the Champion Sprint, we're going to have to supplement him again. And so they were very game, and we supplemented him, and he was 4th. And I think the supplementary cost $35,000, and he won £35,150.
He was 4th in the Kipco as a 3-year-old, which we thought was pretty good. And so then we are going into his 4-year-old days, thinking, actually, you know, we have got a horse here that we can you know, run in the big races.
The thing with a Tin Man is when he wasn't right, he would give you signs. You know, he'd take things a lot harder. I remember the week before he was favourite for the Diamond Jubilee as a 4-year-old, and the week before his work was absolutely shocking. Right. You know, it was beyond. I think he had a kind of a 65 rated horse leading him, and he couldn't get within 3-4 lengths of him. And obviously, because it's a Diamond Jubilee, we thought, we'd take a chance, but that was a big kind of learning curve for us. Was that, you know, when a horse works like that, especially him, it's a sign that he's just not quite right. And you know, ever since that race, we let us tell us where to dictate his plans.
The highlight has to be the Diamond Jubilee in 2017. He not only won the race, he survived the steward's inquiry, which we were all relaxed about for 10 minutes, as you can imagine, at Royal Ascot. Never in doubt. Yeah. And Her Majesty the Queen presented the prize. She was very kind. She spoke to all of us. We were all up on the stage. One of the syndicate members, Roy, who's a West Ham fan, I remember he was holding the trophy up high above the Queen like this. And one of his friends said to him afterwards, he said, "Roy," he said, "you hung onto that trophy for longer and higher than Bobby Moore did when he lifted the World Cup."
Most of us were standing together, and because he's a funny horse, he doesn't show anything at home. He shows very little at home, and even in the race, you know, he's looking as if he's not sort of going anywhere. Yeah. And then you suddenly see this little horse wheedling his way through, and blooming heck, he's
Yeah, explodes. Yeah.
won the race, and it was, you know, for a syndicate like ours, it was just a dream, really. And then the Queen was incredibly gracious, and she had us all up on the podium, and she shook hands with everybody, and you know, that in itself was something very, very special.
The association with Haydock, I mean, he was always so long the bridesmaid, but then to be the bride and win at Haydock, win the Sprint Cup, that must have been so satisfying.
Oh, it was great, especially as you know, alluded to the ground. When we got there, absolutely chucking it down with rain. We actually drove up that year. We didn't go on a plane, and went up, and all the way up the M6, it was chucking it down. And I was to Jacko saying, "I hope you're not going to run. You know, we shouldn't be running in this." And anyway, we did, and Oisin rode him, and he won well. So.
And what's it like having a wife as the syndicate manager, but also, you know, you're sort of discussing the logistics? Is there a little bit more pressure to try and, or how does that sort of work?
It's not a problem at all. You know, it's easy.
Does it help that you can have these sort of very frank conversations about knowing what's best for the horses and being able to make decisions like that quicker, really?
Well, I think all trainers and their wives, you know, I think if their wives involved, there's bound to be sort of differences of opinion every now and again, and there has been differences of opinion over the Tin Man and the Fred Archer. But Jacko is, she absolutely makes sure that no stone is left unturned, and and if she feels strongly about something, she'll say it, and it's it might cause a bit of friction at the time, but we resolve it, and it's usually for the best.
I started here 3.5 years ago, which is when I would have first met him. Obviously, he's quite well known in racing, so it was nice to meet a celebrity of the sport. And I started riding him around July in 2019.
And tell me a bit about his character and what he was like to ride when he was riding out every day, and how he took his work.
He's generally a really, really good ride. There is one particular place that he's very naughty, and I always try and avoid it at all costs, and the boss will generally send me there for entertainment value. But he's a very, very kind, gentle horse, and he thrives on his work. The first day I rode him, I text about 100 people saying, "Oh my God, look what's happening, you know, I'm about to ride the Tin Man." It didn't really matter to me that he'd lost his form. He was still a Triple Group 1 winner, and it's always very exciting to be associated with a horse like that. The main goal for all of us then was to rekindle his fire, and he hadn't really been ridden by a girl before, and I think that maybe might have been a tiny bit of the reason I ended up on him. I'm quite light, and I'm obviously a girl, so it was just trying something different, and something worked somewhere along the line. Not because of me, but because there's such a huge team effort behind him, and the attention to every little detail of him is no stones left unturned, and it was just a very small piece of a jigsaw.
We can see just being here what a stable star, what a legend he's become for the yard. It must give everyone so much pride to see him do so well year after year too.
Oh, great. Well, the thing I was sort of aware of the last 2 seasons was, you know, are we keeping going for the sake of it? Because I'm always sort of critical of people, you kept that horse and trained too long and that sort of thing, you know, so quietly. But he still loved it. He loved his training. He loved the whole routine. And, last season I just felt we shouldn't have run at Ascot, because he sort of, I think he sort of looked up that Ascot hill and sort of thought, right, well, I prefer a flat track now rather than going up there. So, and I think, if I missed Ascot last year, he was a bit unlucky at Newbury not to win, and he ran very well in the Sprint Cup. So we were going to go a sort of a lower route, but we weren't going to go handicapping with him. We'd go for Group 3s and listed races, because he loves the routine of it and being in training.
Such a relief to know he's got a beautiful home here and be so well looked after, and he's so loved. And you all dread that fateful call you're going to get, well, we've got an injury or whatever. And they were amazing here. I mean, they were on the scene straight away, the medics, the vets, and he was being looked after within a couple of hours of the injury, which I'm sure made a big difference. But it's just great to see him here.
That's his box down there, and everyone knows it. And he's quite demanding with people going by if he doesn't get the attention. So he's been there a long time, so he's part of the furniture. But it's, I think the big relief was that he was, that the surgery went well and everything.
Well, he is quite happy. He's frustrated because he can also see his next door neighbour, who's fresh, taking over his playpen. And the Tin Man had his own playpen and nobody else went in his playpen. It was his, he had his name on it, and now he obviously can't go out in it, and Fresh goes out in it, and the Tin Man's actually pretty cheesed off about it. Yeah.
It would be weird the day he wasn't here, because he's been in box 19 for the last seven and a half years. It's kind of his home as much as probably he's been here more in the last 7.5 years than I have. So it's I think it's a kind of a big factor him staying here. I think it especially
part of the furniture.
He is part of the furniture, exactly that.
It's a privilege to part own, be involved in a syndicate that owns the Tin Man. He's a legend.
We've come to the other side of Newmarket, to Tattersalls, for the July sales. We're here to find out more from members of the bloodstock industry about the unprecedented last 12 months.
Well, I think when the pandemic first hit more than 12 months ago, I think everybody sort of took a deep breath in, and nobody was really sure what was going to happen. I think the most important thing that happened from our industry point of view was that we managed to get racing again at the start of June last year, and that just keeps the wheels turning. It allowed us to, be able to, the horses are an annual thing. Foals are born every spring. They need to be sold. The yearlings need to be sold. Horses in training need to be sold. And so as soon as racing began again, the wheels started turning again. And so whilst the market did drop a little bit, as one might expect with the uncertainty that was around, by and large, there was still plenty of competition for good horses. So at the end of the year, we were actually delighted with how things finished up for us, and I think a lot of people were.
We had about 25 foals here in December, and on the Saturday there was like panic buying, and we had 3 foals weren't sold in the ring, and they were all sold within 10 minutes privately. The online bidders, we couldn't see them, so we didn't really know how strong they were, whether we should bid against them and not to try and get more money, but it was great to see it happening, and we never thought we could come and clear so many horses in such a strange time in the world. If we hadn't sold last year's foals, we would have struggled to keep all those horses for the winter financially, and we would have had no money to keep going, pay our wages and pay our feed bills. So for us it was important, and we were very lucky that the sales were able to take part so well as well.
From the yearling sales from last year onwards, there seems to have been a sale every week. We've squeezed every sale into we missed quite a few months, and then suddenly we've squeezed everything in. So doing flat and jumps has been a pretty hectic time. Last autumn, some of the sales were a bit squashed on prices and things, but I think this year things have really sort of opened up a bit, and trade's been quite strong. It's been a very resilient market, which is remarkable, both flat and jumps. Why would that be? I'm not quite sure. I suspect that people have come out of the lockdown evaluating their life slightly differently and deciding that they've had time to reevaluate things, I think, and they've got money in the bank, and people who've enjoyed racing have decided this is something they want to expand upon. And I feel that people who've been in racing before seem to have want a few more horses this year. I don't know why that is quite this year, with the prize money is lower, but anyway, there we are. I mean, I'm not bemoaning that fact, but we've been quite busy as an agency, store buying, breeze up 2-year-olds, and the form horse sales have been strong as well, from point to pointers to, and I'm at this sale here at Newmarket July looking for sprinters now, which is an unusual thing for me to have orders for that. So these are all things which are, I don't know, have they spawned from people being inactive and not being able to spend their money on much else for the last year? I don't know.
It's a very international sale that has a lot of buyers from America, buyers from Australia, and throughout Europe. So what was difficult was making sure that they were able to participate. So we would normally do a lot of overseas travel to see these clients. That was curtailed. But we were a combination of making sure there's videos, photos, lots of information about the horses. We're still able to communicate with these buyers in all different parts of the world. They were able to find people here on the ground who could look at horses for them. So whilst the market there took a little bit of a hit, it was still by and large, you know, the strongest yearling sale in Europe, and so you know, everybody was still very happy.
That's it for another episode of This Racing Life. Join us next time for another show.